we should both go sparse for this episode.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing going on today. No, we're being serious, guys. Like seriously.
Yeah. We're gonna get deep. Hello, Tom.
Hey, Dana, what is going on?
Not much. I'm coming to you today from Stylog 17 here.
Your word of the day, sparse today.
Yes, I've actually commandeered like a conference room, and I'm upstate visiting Jared. So
Nice.
at Fredonia, so the hotel, I commandeered a conference space.
That is awesome. I like to think that your time has already passed and expired. There's a bunch of angry people outside. I'm like, hey, we reserved the room. Do you mind?
Right. No, I didn't ask. I just commandeered it.
Even better. This is the final.
I didn't ask permission. I just took over.
This is the final like 10 minutes of an 80s movie. They really need to get it done, where there's like some wacky cops that are chasing you down.
And I'm going to turn around and walk away at the end like this.
Brave. No one ever saw them again.
Right. And for those who are listening and not watching, you have no idea what I just did, but it's okay. But welcome to Two Guys Talking Toys, long distance style. We're doing long distance today.
Welcome back, everybody. So what do you have going on? Did you find anything cool in upstate New York?
I really haven't had a chance to. I was spent the day rock climbing and stuff yesterday, which was fun. But we did have to go to a Target, and just because it brought me joy, not because it's any part of my collection, but this made me laugh, so I bought it. I bought Hey Hey from
Wow,
Moana.
like full size.
Yeah. Oh, he makes the most annoying sound too.
No, it's not coming through. Give him another squeeze. Beat him up some.
Hold on, I'll put the microphone up to him.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Were you able to hear it?
That's horrendous.
I know. It's great. So I'm gonna bring this to work. The kids at work will get a kick out of it.
That's true.
This will look great, just sitting on the corner of my desk. And whenever somebody comes in to complain, I'm just gonna squeeze it and keep squeezing it till they walk away.
I'm very interested in everything you have to say. Sir, can you please stop making the chicken squeak?
In fact, he's gonna sit just like this for the whole show.
That seems right. That's kind of the appropriate reaction to some of the things that we're going to be talking about today.
Right. So I got hey saying hey to everyone. What did you get? Did you pick up anything new?
I've got a whole bunch of stuff. So last week, as if you're collecting toys, you probably know about the Target sale that was happening last week, where it was, I think it was buy 10 off of a purchase of 40 and $20 off a purchase of 75 or more. So last week was great for me, not too great for my bank account, my wallet. But
I should have gone and picked up that Allosaurus.
Oh, you absolutely should have.
But I did not.
Would have been $10 cheaper, and you could have tossed in like an extra joke. See, that's how they get you. Because 30, like if it was just whatever off $30, people would have maybe picked up one or two things. But 40 being reduced down to 30, you're always going to get something for maybe like 25. And you're like, well, I need something to take advantage of the sale, so I guess I'll buy another $25 one, which I'm sure was the marketing idea. So it encouraged me to pick up a lot of things that I wouldn't normally have picked up, like that Transformers sale they had when
like
it was 30% off everything. Now, yeah, you should have bundled him with $30 more of stuff.
He was only $12.
So all right, so fingers crossed that you can actually see some of the stuff that I'm about to hold up. So this was my excuse to get.
I can see it.
Fantastic Studio Series Springer. I picked up because I was really debating, because this is one of those egregious things that Hasbro did. This is maybe like a Voyager size figure. He's in a liter size box for no good reason other than we just want a higher price point. He has been sold by himself, a different version of this, same size, sold at a smaller size class. So I was like, I'm not getting that for that price. But
Right.
with the sale and bundling him with someone like Man of War
Nice.
from the Masterverse line, not
Right.
too bad.
That's
But
Man-at-Arms formal wear when he's fighting.
yes, this is what he's going to wear to Tila's wedding, and he's just going to wear it again as if he could stop him from doing anything terrible.
Which was really him just becoming Iron Man.
Yeah, pretty much. That there was a. They're like, well, what about this, but in white? Whatever the number of that armor is. I also finally started opening some more of my stuff
Nice.
from Walmart, because why not? I've got a ton of
Venom.
This is another Target purchase. I mean, I have this mold technically, but they kind of tweaked it and then re-released it for this stupid upcoming movie that's happening, because they won't stop making stupid Venom movies, and it really makes me
Well,
mad.
I'd rather have another stupid Venom movie than another absolutely asinine Morbius movie. So,
You know what? If I have the option of going to see Venom or Morbius or Joker 2, I'm gonna pick Morbius or Venom.
oh man, you said Morbius.
Look, a lot of people are now having seen what happened, and I'm not gonna. I know it's become like the in thing to hate on Joker 2, but I went to the preview night and saw it firsthand, so I feel like I have a little bit more of a claim to talk about how it's not good. So also, we'll keeping the streak alive with
The
a
magic box.
magic box. Using scissors again this week. These I've kept these nearby, so no more like butter knives or like a random loose screw.
USB ports and number 2 pencils and an unconscious squirrel.
Look, what else are you going to use them for?
Doorstop.
So this
Feather duster.
that is true. So this is let me do the dance to try and get it on camera. This comes from Hasbro Pulse. It is Straxus. It's a comic version of. I had it for like a second.
Oh, yeah, you go. Stop.
Oh,
Don't move.
there it is.
And it's gone.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's
right,
terrible. It's just terrible.
This is the Hasbro Pulse exclusive version of Comic Colors Straxus. Oh, the front cover opens. Awesome. Perhaps you can see him.
Oh, I can see him now.
Nice. He is awesome. He hasn't had a figure since the Generations line. In the comics, he's huge. In the toy line, I remember there being an interview where they said they wanted to make him into like a larger scale figure, but they could only make him a deluxe because of money. So now he finally gets to be kind of Voyager leader scale like he should be. He's a retool of the Galvatron mold, which makes sense because he does turn into like a random gun war machine thing in the comics. So it's pretty awesome. And he's blue, which is great because that's also comic accurate. But he's also appeared in like a really great looking red and black color scheme that I really hope they get to.
They probably will. They're really small. Isn't it weird when you hear like, Hasbro looked at this product and they were like, I don't know that we want to spend the money on that. With all the money they have, like that makes me feel better when I go to a store and I see a toy and I'm like, I don't know, maybe not.
With that amount of money, and I know there's all sorts of levers and whatever, but it all comes down to, well, how much more money can go into our executives' pockets? Make toys. Make toys that we want. Like, it makes me so sad to hear stories of people that go in and they pitch toy lines to these soulless, smileless ghouls whose only intention is to make money. And no matter how interesting or fascinating the presentation might be, it just comes down to the spreadsheet. And if you can't convince them that it's going to benefit them in that way, then it's not getting made. That they had to fight again with the Transformers series. I'm blown away by some of the stuff they have been able to get through. Like, we got Magmatron, which is kind of mind blowing because he's a giant figure that they actually managed to get pushed into the line at that scale. But he's 3 dinosaurs that merge into one giant dinosaur and then turn into a robot.
And there's nothing that gets cooler than that.
Yeah, and
except maybe 4 dinosaurs.
and try pitching this concept. And he's from the Japanese Beast Wars Neo line, no less. So try pitching that to a bunch of people who are like, how's this going
That's
to
the
make me money?
chosen line.
Yeah, like it's not even this isn't even from a property that originated in America. Well, why are we making a toy of this guy? What's he what? So I give them all the credit in the world for managing to get that out there. And some of the they've made some wild choices, but they play it safe a lot.
Transformers, as conservative as you can discuss them being sometimes, there are a lot of times they take a wild swing
Oh
on
yeah,
characters and designs and
when they were trying to revamp the line and kind of keep it going, they did some crazy stuff, which I think will lead into our topic. Do you want to introduce it, or do you want me to just kind of lead into it?
go for it.
All right, so because we had so much fun talking last week about 90s properties, we wanted to do it one more time.
One more. Bring it
One
around.
more again, because there's so much that happened. You know, you can't encapsulate an entire decade of stuff one one episode. So we want to do it one more time.
And I just wanted to talk about gargoyles again, so we didn't get a chance to.
So in the 90s, you know, we kind of touched on this last time, but Transformers was struggling as a toy line because they'd been around for a while, and they kind of
Right.
tapped out in like the mid to late 80s by introducing like Micromasters and Pretenders and Action Masters, which was kind of the last gasp until jumping the series overseas to Europe. So there were like European releases in the late 80s, early 90s that we actually didn't get over here. I want to say I could be mistaken. I want to say like Turbo Masters and whatnot. There was a few different lines that happened over there that we didn't get here. And then in Japan, that like it kept going over there, but we weren't getting things like that. We got the Headmasters and we even got Power Masters, but their series over there, the Headmasters and Master Force, Victory was their own thing. We saw nothing from Victory. And then they tried to keep it going with Zone, and then it kind of fizzled from there. But over here, there was a little bit of a lull. We got Generation 2, the recolors of Gen 1. They did kick off Beast Wars, which was
Right,
also
which was a big swing.
but they also did a line called Machine Wars, which was we were just talking about how there's some wild stuff that happens. Machine Wars was a whole like brand new line, new characters, completely different concept that Transformers had never done before. And I liked, at the time it was different, so you weren't really sure what to make of it. And you're like, well, all right, sure. And they had similarly named characters. You had your Soundwave and
Right.
Starscream was in it, but they were introduced in a completely new molds.
Right. I remember, yeah, in the 90s, I was already out of Transformers. Like I was done with them. Even when I was a kid, I didn't have a lot of them. I was more into GoBots.
Yeah.
But I was still obviously in the toy stores and doing things in the 90s. And I would go look at them, and some of the big swings, I was like, oh, that's awesome. But
Yeah.
then because I'm such a hard-nosed traditionalist about some things, I would look at the new Soundwave and the Starscream and go, oh, they ruined it. They ruined it.
and I think unfortunately, like we have the benefit of hindsight looking at it now.
Yeah.
At the time, unfortunately, that was kind of the response. You're like,
Right.
Starscream doesn't look like this, or this isn't. Why does Soundwave look like why is he a rolling missile launcher? Why is I don't understand why Starscream is a jet, or why is he attached to a stealth bomber? That's kind of weird.
Right.
So there's a lot of like resistance to it because there was so much. Even then, like the short term nostalgia kind of cut us off from experiencing something new. I mean, they ran the full line, and looking back on it, it's kind of a great line. And not only was it a really well done, well put together toy line, Japan acknowledged this by incorporating a lot of the molds into their version of Beast Wars. So they had launched Beast Wars 2, and this was I want to say in probably the late 90s, because Beast Wars here was still running. So the Japanese got our episodes over there, so they got season 1, and then they jumped off and just kept going with their version of Beast Wars called Beast Wars 2, which introduced Leo
Electric
Convoy.
Boogaloo.
There is a group of robots in that series that like to dance.
Of course.
It is fantastic.
Are their names Turbo, Ozone, and Kelly? Because that would be great. Because those sound like Transformer names.
They were an Insecticon cluster that were also
of course.
It was great stuff. Maybe a little problematic now because they were very Mexican, I will say, in the same way that Speedy Gonzalez is a little bit problematic now.
Right.
Or it's a dated concept, so
Right.
they
Yeah.
took that in. But Beast Wars 2 was also, if you were really kind of like pursuing stuff that was overseas, really interesting because they took all of this stuff, they took everything from years past, and just blended it into one series. They came up with some new molds, but also were using stuff from Machine Wars. They took the Piranacon mold from the late '80s and revamped that into a character called God Neptune. But they were
It's a great
on
name.
board. Yeah, it's a great series. It's a great toy line, and I recommend it to everyone. But let's shift more to the U.S. '90s in case people aren't super duper interested in what was happening in Japan. And I guess we can shift. We could probably. It's our show. We can do what we want. Let's shift a little more from just cartoon toy lines to just '90s toy lines as a whole.
Oh, see, this is the kind of things you do that cheat. You cheat.
I need to have more things to talk about.
You cheat.
But I want to hear what you were going to say about the Gargoyles toy line, because we absolutely should touch on that a little bit more, because I remember I loved Brooklyn, and I
Because Brooklyn's in the house.
Yes, he is fantastic. He was like the one that I rooted for, that just couldn't catch a break. But his NECA toy is chef's kiss.
Absolutely, yeah. It is really well done. Gargoyles is another one of those accidental treasures that I found in buying, because I was aware of them, and I kind of thought it was a cool concept. Speaking of, I was just watching last night, got back late, trying to fall asleep. I was watching John Carpenter's The Thing, and
good stuff to sleep to.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's his name is in it? The guy who voiced Goliath, David Keith, is that his name?
Yes.
And he looks like he's 12 years old. He's so young.
So strange seeing them then. And like when you first watch it, you're like, who are these? There's a bunch of old guys running from an alien monster. And you look at it now, you're like, why is it terrorizing these children?
Right. And you're like, oh, I know that guy. I know that guy. Like, but then when you watch it, I haven't seen the movie in probably a decade or more. So, but that was fun. But yeah, so I was aware that they existed, right? And it was a Disney thing, so I was like, eh. But then I started seeing the toys, and they were a good scale, and they were well made, and I picked up a couple. The one who got me was the Goliath with the wings that would fold up and clip.
Yeah.
And then it would come out, and I thought, wow, that looks so good. Those figures were so, like, the design of them, because they still kept the animated look. Yeah. And they were hefty. And then they had the flapping wings thing, and Hudson had the sword swing that was cool because it went this way and it wasn't this.
Yeah.
Like, I always thought that elbow swing was cool, and it was kind of unique at the time. Yeah. But especially him, like his design and sculpt and detail was a little bit better than the others.
Yeah.
And that's why he's my favorite figure, because of the scar on his face and all that, But those figures were awesome, and when I got them, they offered something different. And then when I watched the cartoon, and it was so well written, that first season, and dark, when Demona switches the radio waves, and the people are turning to stone.
Yes.
And she's running around the streets just cracking people with the mace.
That is one of my favorite episodes. That really threw me off, because it takes you a minute to make
you're like, what happens in the daytime? What's going to happen in the morning?
Those people are dead. They're gone.
Yeah.
That's kind of horrifying.
And when the clan of gargoyles had, like, destroyed in the first episode, when they turned to stone, and you're just watching, and even the babies, like the little ones, you're like, they don't show that, but like, they just killed the whole clan of creatures.
I like that Demona was not just evil for the sake of being evil, and in her mind, she wasn't evil. And those, I mean, you hear it a lot now.
That Magneto thing,
those are the best kinds of villains, the ones that believe that what they're doing actually is correct. But they also made they did a good job of contrasting her, kind of well thought out, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, with a character like Thaylog, who I also loved,
Right.
who really was just evil for the sake of
Yeah,
being
and he
creepy
was just
evil.
the mirror verse
He
of
had,
Goliath, right?
yeah,
So
do you know how long it took me to realize that? You know how silly I felt when I finally realized that that's what they did with his name. Still one of my favorite characters. Like, I love that he's just this. He is a product, literally a product of his environment. He was made to be what he is, so he
right,
kind of can't help but being uh, uh, a money grubbing but super intelligent monster with great power.
right.
That's like, what
Yeah.
choice did he have?
Right. I remember thinking Thalog, what a dumb, oh, it's Goliath backwards. All right. That's like when you figure out, like, damn it, I'm mad, spelled backwards is damn it, I'm mad. It's the same, it's that same wonderful feeling.
Yeah, it took him way longer than it should have. But
Yeah. But those,
I also love that Demona was into him, and he could not have cared less.
right. He's just like, whatever, dude. Yeah, the figures were great, and I love that they did Xanatos with the armor. Like, you could put the
Yes.
armor on him, and they did the steel one that broke in half, which was cool. You can have
Mhm.
Goliath literally rip him in half, which
Yes.
is nice. And
Did they
they did Macbeth.
did they get around to making Cold Stone for that line? Because I remember there being kind of like a cybernetic line, or they had metallic armor, but I don't remember if that was Cold Stone or not.
No, they just did the gargoyles with the like armor, and that came from the first two seasons were great, and then it went
Mhm.
into what were they called, the Goliath Chronicles or whatever,
Oh
the
yeah,
third season.
the Goliath Chronicles were really bags. And they knew it was bags. They shunted it off to UPN.
Yeah, 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 they did.
They're
Nothing
like,
came
we don't,
out of UPN that was good, but
we
I mean, it still had a couple of good episodes, but they changed the animation. It was just not good, but I wish they would have stayed with the original formula, because those first
yeah,
two seasons are sublime. And the toys, like, I look at the new NECA stuff and they're cool, but they've got that sinewy kind of like almost
yeah. They
total
have a real,
justice look.
yeah, the 1% body fat. Like, it's like they look good. Like you said, they're sculpted great, and I love the way that they look. There's the whole issue with the wings, but overall as a figure, they're amazing. But I really
Oh,
do
they're,
wish that we got more of a, like, I would like to see what Super Seven could do with this line, because they would
yes,
probably
they
get
did in
here a little bit
Ultimates.
closer.
They
Yeah,
did in Ultimates because it would have that cartoony look.
yes,
It would look, it's not going to be reimagined. It's just going to
no,
be re sculpted, you know?
and
Um,
I've complained about this before, and I know that NECA's bread and butter is really Ninja Turtles, and we get as many Ninja Turtles as possible, and that's great. Like, I love all the artsy stuff we're getting, and I like that they're I kudos to them for kind of dabbling in the 2003 stuff, but their Gargoyles line seems to have come to a full stop. That
yeah,
we got the release
absolutely.
of,
And it was slow to begin with.
yeah, it was always kind of already kind of a trickle. We got Thaylog. We haven't gotten any of the other clones, which is strange to me because
It's just a repaint.
it's just different colored plastic.
Mhm.
Um, we haven't gotten any of the other clans. Uh, Macbeth has been seen as already been sculpted years ago. So I don't know
Mhm.
where Macbeth is. Along with his motorcycle, Cold Stone hasn't been seen. So I'm at a loss. And initially we were super excited and going on about, like, seeing the pack, and then maybe like the
Right.
cyber version of the pack, and all those gargoyle clans. When Goliath went on his uh the whole series with the raft, defeating all
Through
the different,
Avalon, yeah.
uh, we're never going to see the cat clan. I'm not
I
even,
don't know if we're gonna see any more.
that it might be over. Hopefully it's not, but I'm not encouraged by what I'm seeing.
No, me neither. But the gargoyles, all in all, are just the original line, fantastic. They came with great
Yes.
swords and all kinds of cool, the wings flapping, and they
Mhm.
were just great figures and a great cartoon, great figures, fantastic. And then, so can I talk about another cartoon before you run away with another rule?
Absolutely. I mean, I've got a couple other cartoons I would talk about, but yeah, we're going off the rails. We're making a right turn at Albuquerque.
Yeah, here's a cartoon that was cool in that it was the first, as far as I know, the
Hmm.
first made for TV CGI generated cartoon,
Hmm.
and it was Reboot.
Reboot. one of my old roommates was super duper into Reboot, and
It was a cool story. It was cool. In fact, I think the new Tron movie coming out is taking the
Mhm.
Reboot premise.
Really, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So I remember I knew the show because it was the same animation company that did Beast Wars.
It was a Canadian company, wasn't it?
Yes, I don't remember their name offhand, but it was
Uh,
very yeah. They
Irwin or
were
it's something, I don't know.
I forgot, but they had the same yeah. Like you could see where they were learning. They were trying different things. And I vaguely recall Reboot. I can't. I can't remember the name of the characters. Unfortunately, I remember that was it Bob? Was Bob the blue guy?
Bob was the Guardian
There
guy,
was the
yeah.
kid. I remember
There's
there
a
was a
girl,
female
Charlie,
character.
right?
Yes,
Charlie.
I remember Megabyte because I
Megabyte
thought he
was
had like
cool.
kind of a cool look. Um,
Mhm. And
I
hexadecimal, the hex, like the woman, Megabyte's Harley Quinn.
Now did she come in the later season? Because I remember seeing her. I didn't pay attention to the show, and I remember seeing like a random episode pop up, and she appeared, and she had like the multiple faces with the multiple masks, and was kind of
Yeah, she was
oh,
creepy.
that was cool. But
And
I
then the
couldn't tell
figures, there's the red figure, which is very
you.
Harley Quinn in color. And
Yeah.
then there's a black one with these
Mhm.
ribbons coming out. It's very intense looking. And it's a cool figure.
I vaguely recall the toy line being on shelves. Like again, like I kind of honed in on Megabyte, so I remember seeing him and being like, oh, well, that's kind of neat. I know I'm
Yeah.
not buying because I want Cheetor.
Yeah. They were fun. There was Bob's friend, the girl, I think her name was Dot Matrix, I think, or maybe I'm
Mhm.
thinking of Spaceballs, but I think her name was Dot Matrix. And there was a dog who was bright red and yellow. And then
Mhm.
they sold a 4-pack of little robots. And it was called the bucket of binomes, I think. And it was 4 little robots, which were right up your alley. I think you should check them out. But yeah, they
They're
were
being
cool.
like a red and blue. They look
Yeah,
like
like a floaty kind of
they
big.
kind of look like Skeletor's robots that he had in
Yes,
to get destroyed.
yes.
But I remember there being a red and blue version of those.
Yeah, yeah, and they were cool looking because they were yeah, there was a red and blue, and they had like that weird ball at the bottom that they would
Mhm.
float, kind of roll, maybe float. I don't know, but yeah, they were cool. Very gizmo duckish in
Yes.
shape. Yeah, yeah, they
I
was cool.
So see, I remember that there was a season two of that, and it came after I guess season one ended, or the initial story that they had done ended in kind of a dark way. Like, doesn't
Yep.
Megabyte essentially win?
Yeah, 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 because they lived in the world of mainframe, right? And when
Mhm.
you think about it, you could think, oh, there's this great cyber world, or maybe this is just one person's hard drive, right,
Mhm.
inside this mainframe. And
Yeah.
then he wanted to, he would ultimately, it was a virus, like a computer
Mhm.
virus that would null everything. It was called being nullified. So
Uh,
that universe would then be like the nothing from Neverending Story. It would be just
mhm.
nullified completely. So you'd get a virus that would erase your mainframe, right? And that's what they were defending against. But then he tried to get his, Megabyte wanted to spread beyond the mainframe, which is
Of
the
course.
story of the new Tron movie, actually.
Mhm.
So,
And like the
um,
Matrix.
yeah, yeah. So it was a cool story. It was cool,
Mhm.
but when it first came out, I think people, and I've suffered from this. I think people were shying away from the earlier CGI
Yeah.
stuff, right?
It,
Like it took me forever to get into the Green Lantern series
mhm.
because of the way it was animated, or Fear the Batman because it ended up being a great story, but the animation was
Yeah.
weird. So I think if Reboot, and I'm glad they did it because they were the first, I think.
Mhm.
But if they had been proper animation, I don't think I think it would have been bigger than it was.
Yeah. If they re-released it now and made the whole gimmick to it be like the reboot of Reboot, there'd probably be a lot of people that would jump on and watch it. Um,
Yeah. I
I
think
might
it
not.
got a cult following afterwards. Like people
Yes,
sought the
absolutely.
figures out after the line had ended because I
I,
think they found the cartoon and they were like, "Oh, that was actually pretty good." And then
yeah,
they got the
I
toys.
I think there's and you mentioned this last time. I think that the nostalgia that the target audience has been holding on to that was very locked into the 80s, which lasted for over 10 years now, is now starting to shift more towards 90s stuff. So I
Right.
wouldn't be surprised at all if there was a reboot of Reboot that there'd be this explosion of nostalgia. Like, oh, I remember that show. Oh, this is
Yeah.
great. If speaking of shows based in computers, did you ever watch Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad?
No, but I knew of it, and it's just
It
I
was
wish I could just because of the
it,
title alone, I want to be part of it.
it was another of Saban's Matt. Like he just armed all the Japanese series into his cart and tried to give him the Power Rangers series. So there was a series in Japan called Gridman, and very
Sure,
very
why not?
ultra yeah very Ultraman in appearance and influence, and except that it took place in when everything was cyber. It was the cyber world.
Cyberverse, right.
But everything was like kind of
Even
computer
Marvel
based.
got suckered into that bit for a
Oh
while.
yeah, they had like their cyber knights or something weird.
Mhm.
But but yeah, like the Superhuman Samurai was based on the American version of it in the 90s. It was this kid, and him and his friends, who were of course in a band, uh they would get they would get sucked in, because we hadn't left the Hanna-Barbera, all these kids are in a band idea.
Right, right, yeah,
Uh
Josie and the Pussycats and
yeah,
all of them,
they
yeah.
they would get sucked into their computer to go and fight these evil virus creatures that were being created by, and of course the villain was this upset little goth kid who probably wound up growing up to be an incel. uh he, he would draw all these characters, and
And so
the main villain was, oh, what was his name? It was Kilo Khan was the main bad guy, voiced by Tim Curry. Tim
No,
Curry
he did a
for
lot of
him.
voices because he did a voice in Gargoyles.
Yes, and it was so great, and he clearly got to like enjoy himself and have fun and ham it up and do
Yeah.
like a silly laugh for the main like villain bad guy who contacted this emo kid, and he of course sat around and drew, and I was like, oh no, like I need any more bad depictions of art people. But he would draw these quote unquote viruses, and Kilo Khan would bring them to life, and they would start messing up like the school play, and then
Oh,
these kids
dare
would,
they?
yeah, they'd have to, like, I guess essentially run home, go to the computer, say a catchphrase, and then they would jump into the computer. But Servo, the main
What
like,
was the catchphrase? I need to know. Do you know what it is?
oh, I don't remember. I think one of them was like pump up the jam, something along those lines.
Pump up the volume, pump up
And
the volume.
and it was very like whoever it was that made the show was also clearly a fan of like Saved by the Bell. So you had your sort of Screech character
Yeah.
and your jock-ish character and your popular girl character, and the main guy was I believe one of the Joeys.
One of the
Uh,
Joeys, like a baby kangaroo?
no, oh, what else was he in? Blossom's brother.
Joey Lawrence?
Yes, he was.
Whoa.
He was one of them. Had the telltale bowl cut.
Okay.
They would go in, and he would transform into Servo, who was like a much more kind of mechanical looking version of Ultraman, and they would have these fights in the digital world, and it was really cool because he would one of his upgrades was kind of like robot assistant fighters. So there was like essentially a tank that named Xenon.
Wait,
That would
robot assistant
Oh yeah.
fighters? So was he fighting assistant robots or was he assistant to the robot fighters?
No, so you had Servo, who was like the main guy, and
Right.
he would go in and he would fight whatever like virus creature thing. But when he
Okay.
needed help, his friends would pilot these big mech machines,
Oh,
and they would come in and they would help him. But they would also turn into like attachments, so he would get like extra added armor. So you had Xenon, who was kind of like a rolling tank. There was a dragon that looked really cool. That I think was just named Drago or something along those lines.
Fine, of course.
Who was really cool. And I
You
always
would
wanted
think the
to toy
Japanese
him.
would come up with a cooler name for a dragon.
You know what? The Japanese name for him probably is much cooler than what
Yeah,
we
it
wound
has to
up
be.
getting. But I also remember the toy line for that was really cool because it was engineered so that you had your regular Servo figure who came with whatever weapons, but then you also could get Xenon, who in the toy line could actually come apart and attach to Servo, which was really cool. Same thing for the dragon. You could get him; he was his own character, but then you could pull him apart and reattach him. And then they put out the recolors of him. So there's he didn't become these colors in the show, but I remember there being like a really cool black and gold version of him. There was I think like a blue and silver version. There was a red and silver version. But that series was really good, and it clearly influenced from Ultraman, which also started kind of
Right.
popping up more often. In
Yeah, Ultraman found its way over here pretty well
yeah,
in the 90s. My brother got into him. My younger brother Dale got into Ultraman. He bought a figure, like he was one of those hollow
yes,
plastics, but
yep,
he had one hand that was very good
yep.
chop and the other one fist.
I
But
love
it
that
was a good size.
I love that he came with a little. He came with a little person.
Yeah.
I think over here his name was like Dan, but but it's really cool that you could reenact the story because he was Ultraman is a person that turns into a much larger person.
Right.
The story's more complex.
His
The
name is
story's more
Dan.
complex in
They're
Japan,
like,
but
what does Toshikazu translate to? It's an American name.
Dan,
Dan.
Dan's fine.
Dan.
Exactly. But I like that it Ultraman also kind of hit that trifecta of they imported the show, and I remember seeing Ultra 7 was the version that I remember seeing when it came over here. Um, they had their toy line, but do you remember the Ultraman video game for Super Nintendo?
I do remember that. Yes.
I remember being so excited, and no one knew what it was, so I remember buying it from Blockbuster for like $7,
Mhm.
uh, and playing it for hours, and it was so cool to see, you know, I could now play as Ultraman, a character that I've seen on television, and also have a toy of Barunga, and now I can fight him in the video game, which is great.
Yeah. The Ultraman toys, like I remember Dale knew who he was. And I kind of
Mm-hmm.
knew who Ultraman was for doing it.
Uh-huh.
And now it's so funny how we then, into the 90s and certainly the 2000s got more into the Japanese stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then now everybody knows who Ultraman is, right?
Yeah.
So okay, let's cheat. What line did you want to talk about that was the cheat line for the last few minutes here?
What's up? It kind of ties into what we talked about before, where '90s really leaned into taking live action things that may not have been meant for kids. Well,
Right, very
I,
inappropriate.
yeah, the one that I'm thinking of actually was very much geared towards kids. Did you have any of the Flintstone toy line?
I did.
I
I
remember the
had
movie.
oh, you mean the
I didn't
movie
see it.
toys? No.
Yes, I
One
remember.
thing I did gravitate towards was the Flintstone babies,
Mhm.
like the Flintstone kids.
Yes,
When that came out, I loved
that
it.
was
I mean,
another gimmick that everyone was turning into kids.
yeah, the Muppet Babies, the
Mhm.
Flintstone Kids, they did the Scooby-Doo thing,
Yep.
but, I actually purchased the Flintstone Kid toys, like, I collected them in the '90s,
Oh,
and I still have them. I love them. They had little Kitten Fang and little Dino and all yeah, I have the whole line, and I love them. I bit into the Flintstone Kids hard. I didn't play with them, but they were like, my bedroom on the shelf. I loved them. It was cool.
I remember. I remember when the movie was first announced, and it was one of those things where we're like, we kind of knew that if they made a Fat Albert movie, Keenan was going to be the person to play him, and I always kind of knew that if
Right.
they did a Flintstones movie, that John Goodman was going to be the guy to play him, and then he did, and it was just I had no interest in it,
I
zero
did
interest
it, but it
in
had
the
such a
movie.
phenomenal cast. I watched the
Yeah.
first one. You had was it Elizabeth Perkins, right? Uh, Rosie O'Donnell,
Mm-hmm.
John
Rick Moranis.
Goodman,
Thing.
and Rick Moranis. I mean,
Yeah,
how does it get it? And was Kyle MacLachlan in the first one?
may have been.
May have been, but I mean, it was Rick Moranis. How was I not going to go watch it?
I had no interest. But I remember seeing the toys, and I was like, "Oh, that's actually a pretty good version of John Goodman." I just have no interest in owning this
Yeah,
because of this stunning likeness. It's the same issue I have with a lot of the live action Marvel Legends figures, where if you're
right.
into the MCU, if you're into the cinematic universe, great. Like these characters they really look like these actors, but not for me, not so much.
If they would have released at the time to support the movie, if they would have released the characters in that same style, but look like the original Hanna-Barbera animated ones, I would have been all
Mhm.
over it. I would have bought
How did we not get a Jetsons movie? Maybe they just didn't
them.
have technology to try and pull off some of that stuff yet.
Yeah, I don't know. We're almost done.
All right.
Um,
What one last thing, and I will not cheat on this. Did you watch the Mega Man cartoon? The Ruby Spears Mega Man
I
cartoon?
did not. I caught a couple episodes, but I didn't watch it religiously.
That,
I know you were
that,
really into the Mega Man guys.
that's all you need because it was terrible. It
Yeah,
looked
I didn't
cool.
I didn't buy
It
into it
was
because
we were lied to because I remember when they first started advertising for the cartoon, they were showing clips. I'm sure the show was not done; was nowhere close to being done. We are still like a few
right.
months off. And I remember seeing an advertisement for it, and all the animated clips they showed were from Japanese promotions for the Mega Man series or the Rockman series,
Yeah.
and those are awesome, and they look just like the characters you see in the in the game, and it's this cool stylized. Like I thought it was going to be an anime that
Yeah. It
dubbed
should have
brought
been.
over here, and that's absolutely what it should have been. And instead, we got weird, blocky, superhuman-ish proportion Mega Man.
Yeah.
Like, why does
Because
the
everybody has
robot
to be
have
buff.
abs? It like the proportions were odd. The writing was not very good. Why is Roll turned into a vacuum cleaner? Like it was so much of it, and it was another case of the toys doing a good job in that they looked like the show.
But nobody wanted
Bandai,
them to look like that.
yeah, Bandai made it a point to have all the toys have like the weird like square pecs and the odd proportioned version of Bomb Man,
Mm.
and I hated them. Hated them all.
Yeah, I never got into it. Once I watched the cartoon a couple of times, I was like, nah, because that was my first exposure to Mega Man. And then
Mhm.
once I found out more about the history, I was like, man, I was like, man, this sucks. But then when I found out what it should have been, I was like, man, this really sucks.
Yeah, not to their I guess to their credit, they did actually make a lot of the Robot Masters. It's
Hmm.
just it was in a style that I couldn't stand. I just want and thank goodness right now we're finally getting a toy line of Mega Man characters that look like Mega Man, that look like
Right.
the actual like video game artwork a little bit more. I'm nitpicking with that because I kind of wish that the proportions were a little bit more stretched. Like they seem a little bit chibi for my
Mhm.
liking, but it's leaps and bounds better than what we had been getting, and I really hope that
Absolutely.
they keep it up because
Yeah.
for years we it's been a wasteland and there's been nothing.
All right, buddy, I gotta go and head off to go pick up the boy. It's my last day hanging out with him, so I want to go get him early.
All right, enjoy yourself, have fun. Thanks
I
for joining
will.
me on another episode of Two Guys Talking Toys. Uh, watch
And Comic-Con next week.
Comic Con is happening. New York Comic Con is going to be going on, and we will be there. And hopefully, we may or may not do a special episode based on that. We'll see what happens.
Right on. All right, cool, man. I will
All right,
talk to you later.
sounds good. Take care.
Bye.
So Dana has run off to do what he needs to do and have fun with his son. If you would like to get a hold of us and talk about your favorite 90s show or your favorite 90s cartoon, you can get a hold of us on Twitter. Our handle is Two Guys Talking Toys. That is the number 2, no G after the talking. Same thing for our Gmail. Our Instagram handle is 2G Talking Toys. Hope you had fun. Hope you like and subscribe to this show. Tell your friends, tell your buddies, tell all your 90s nostalgia. Take care, everybody.